Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new topic today. So, we are looking from the Year 7 syllabus. This is from the Australian syllabus where I'm from. We're looking at the topic of time. So, this is a very short topic. I'll only do a few videos on it. But today, I really just want to talk about units of time. Now, we all have clocks, we all have watches, we all have phones that tell us the time. We're quite familiar with some of the ideas with it so far, and I'm guessing you probably would have learned some of it in primary school, elementary school as well. So we're just going to jump straight into the topics. So we're looking at units of time here. So I'm going to break this up into two sections. So one is going to be converting units of time. So converting units of time. And the other one is going to be 24-hour time. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but let's look at units of time. So the main ones we're dealing with, particularly in this topic, is going to be day. So the time in a day. And we're going to be looking at hour. We're going to be looking at minute. And we're going to be looking at seconds. So units, if you remember from measurement, these are just different types of measures. So, for example, when we looked at measurement, we had units of, millimeters, centimeters, meters, and we used those just depending on scale, depending on sort of what our measurement required us to do. Now, we do the same with, days, hours, minutes, seconds, even weeks and years and months. So, for example, if someone were to ask me how many weeks until my birthday, for example, I'm not going to tell them that in seconds, for example. That would just be too massive of a number. So we have these different types of units, and we use maths, we use our arithmetic to convert between those. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to draw a little diagram here with my day, hour, minute, second, just to show us how we can think of converting between these. So by now, a lot of you should probably know how many hours there are in a day. So with that, there are 24 hours in a day, in case you didn't know. So if we wanted to go from days to hours, first of all, is that going to be a bigger number or a smaller number? Well, hours are a smaller unit of time, so that means we're going to have more hours to make up sort of a day, right? So if I have one day, I'm going to have 24 hours in that day. If I have 2 days, that's going to be a total of 48 hours. So to get from days to hours, I'm going to times by 24. So however many days I have, to find that in hours, I'm just going to multiply that number by 24 to give me my hours. Now, to get from hours to minutes, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. Now, these are just man-made values to make it easy for us to arrange time and sort of fit it in with the day, and it has to do with a lot of other things in science which I'm not going to really talk about here, but maybe in another video. But to get from hours to minutes, look, once again, I'm probably going to be multiplying because we want to get a bigger value for minutes for each hour, because minutes are a smaller unit of time. So if there are 60 minutes in an hour, to get from hours to minutes, I'm going to times by 60. So for each hour that passes, 60 minutes are passing. So that is just a way we can convert between these two. And we do that by multiplying. So in 1 hour, there are 60 minutes. That means for 2 hours, there are going to be 120 minutes. Now we get the same thing happening when we go from minutes to seconds, because there are, once again, 60 seconds in 1 minute. So we times by 60 to get here from minutes to seconds. Now let's consider the other direction here, because when we convert units, you may remember from measurement, is we could go one way, but we can just as well go the opposite way too. So having a look at going from seconds to minutes, well, I already know it's probably going to have something to do with this same number. The number's not actually going to change, but the mathematical operation changes. So to get from seconds to minutes, well, there are more seconds. Well, there are 60 seconds for each minute. So the number of seconds compared to minutes, the number's going to be a lot higher. So when I go the other direction, I want to actually get a number that's smaller. So instead of multiplying by 60 to get from seconds to minutes, I want to divide by 60, because I have, once again, 60 seconds in a minute, and I would expect that when I convert from seconds to minutes, I'm going to get a smaller number. So dividing is a way to make a number smaller. So in the direction of left to right, I'm always multiplying. Now the direction from right to left, when I go from smaller units of measurement to bigger units of measurement, I'm going to divide. So let's actually look at this idea in practice. So what I want to do, I want to convert, for my first example, I want to convert 3 days to minutes. Okay, so I have 3 days, and if I look at my table, I'm actually jumping between 2 units of measurements. I have to first go from days to hours, then from hours to minutes. So we'll see in a second, there's quick ways we can do this. But with this particular conversion, we are actually skipping a unit. Well, we have to get to hours before we can get to minutes. So let's have a look. Well, I know how to get from days to hours. I know that 1 hour equals, oops, sorry. I know that 1 day equals 24 hours. So 3 days is going to give me 24 times 3 hours. So that means 3 days here is going to be equal to 72 hours. So I've just done this conversion here. So I have my, and it's important to note, these things here are what we call they're just unit measurements. So I'm looking at this from the perspective of 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second. So if I have 3 days, I have to take my multiplying by 24, and I have to also times that by 3 as well. So, and I've shown that down here. So I have 72 hours, and I want to convert 72 hours to minutes. And I know that in 1 hour, that is equal to 60 minutes. Therefore, 72 hours, I'm going to just take 72 lots of 60. So for 1 hour, to get to 72 hours, that gives me 60 times 72 minutes. Let me center this a little more. And that's going to give me, when I do that multiplication, that's going to give me 4,320 minutes. Now, that was the longer way we could go here, but let's just consider what we actually did. And let's look at maybe a quicker way we could do this. So we had one day, and then we did these conversions one by one. Now, if we wanted to do this quicker, we have 3 days, so we can just straight away multiply the 3 days here, so the 3 from this unit, by 24 by 60. We can do it quickly sort of along this path here to convert our units. But the slow way that I've done is just to give you an idea of how we can start to convert these. And hopefully here you can see that that a good reason why we want to use different units of measurements, right? Because if we measured everything in minutes, it would get really annoying saying to someone, well, hey, I'll see you in 3 days. Instead of saying, I'll see you in 3 days, hey, I'll see you in 4,320 minutes. Like, that seems a little bit too much, right? It seems a bit excessive to talk in terms of minutes all the time. That's why we have these different units that we can convert between. So what we're going to do here, I want to now try a slightly harder question. What I want to do is I want to convert 4 1/3 hours to minutes. Okay, so this is a little bit harder, isn't it? Because I have a mixed numeral here. I'm working with a fraction and a whole number here. But you can see that we actually don't have to really work through it too differently, right? Because here I have, let's split this up first of all. So I have 4 hours plus 1/3 of an hour. So I can convert these separately, right? I can say, well, to get from 4 hours to minutes, I can times by 60, because there are 60 minutes in an hour. We can look up here, right? To get from hours to minutes, we are timesing by 60. So let's go down here. So I'm going to times 4 by 60, which is going to give me it's going to give me 240 minutes. Let me just double check that. I don't trust myself, but it looks about right. That gives me, 240 minutes. And 1/3 of an hour, well, I just want to times 1/3 by 60. In essence, I'm finding what is 1/3 lots of 60. So I'm kind of doing my multiplying fractions here. I'm finding 1/3 of 60. And sorry guys, someone mowing the lawn outside. Hopefully that doesn't affect the audio quality too much, but I have 1/3 of 60. So what happens when I multiply 60 by 1/3? Well, that's the same as dividing, sorry, that's the same as dividing 60 by 3. So I'm going to get 20 minutes. So, altogether, if I add these together, I am, because we're adding here, if I add these together, I end up with 260 minutes. This is how we can think about converting these units of time. So a lot of these examples went in one direction. So going from a bigger unit, so say days to minutes or hours to minutes. Now let's just look at one more example and let's just go the other way. And we'll actually talk about 24-hour time in the next video, just so I can keep these as short as possible. So if I want to, for example, convert, we'll go 6 minutes to days. Well, now I want to go the other way, right? I want to trace back because I'm going from minutes to hours to days. So I'm going the other way. So since I'm dividing by these numbers, you would expect this to be a really, really small number when I end up calculating it. So converting 6 minutes to days, I'm going to take my 6 minutes and to get it to hours first, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to divide it by 60. So when I divide 6 by 60, I'm going to get 0.1 hours. Whoops. Sorry about that. Just bear with me, guys. We're almost done. Just want to do these examples just to give you an idea of going both ways. So I have 0.1 hours. And now I want to get from 0.1 hours to days. So to get from hours to days, I want to divide by 24. Now I'm going to get my 0.1 divided by 24. And that's going to give me, let's leave it as a fraction, 1/240th days. So you can see this is a really big number. If I wrote this as a decimal, it'll be about 0.00416666 repeater. So you can see now, hopefully, why it's important to convert units. Because I'm not going to tell someone, for example, all right, class starts in 6 minutes. I'm not going to say class starts in 1/240th of a day, or class starts in 0.004166666666 days. So it's important to understand how we can go back and forth with these units, because time is a type of measurement. And when we measure, we want to use a unit that's appropriate to the scale of what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to measure here. So thanks so much for watching. Sorry about all the noise and for it going a little bit over, but we'll talk about 24-hour time in the next video. I'll see you there.